All right, Mr. Placco, if you can call a roll, please.
Jennifer Harden,
Here.
Linda Grassi,
Here.
Tom Hack,
Here.
Lori Krasinski,
Here.
Jack Miley.
Here.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and go with the, do the pledge.
Oh, very cool.
Very nice.
All right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Very nice.
That's cool.
All right. Okay, so there are a few different things we're going to do to start the meeting. First thing is that making sure again that all board members and participating administrators can see and hear each other. Is there anyone that's having trouble? We're all good, right?
Right. Good.
Okay. Have we confirmed that this is live streaming right, or is recording right now, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We've been asked, I've got to make sure that if anything goes on where you're having trouble with the Zoom app at all, please let us know in some kind of way so we can stop the meeting and make sure that it's fixed, okay? And Jim, we're asking to make sure that you continue to monitor that this is being recorded. Also, let us read. So we're going to read both of these opening statements. On behalf of the board, I would like to welcome all students, staff, parents, and interested community members to tonight's Board of Education meeting. I would like to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the Board of Education held in public for the purpose of conducting the school district's business. It is not to be considered a public community meeting. There is time for public comment during the meeting in the public participation section of the agenda. Also, Governor DeWine recently signed Amended Substitute House Bill 197 into law. This new law is a response to the health risks associated with the coronavirus outbreak. Among other things, this new law allows public bodies, such as boards of education, to conduct their meetings using telephone conference, video conference, or other similar technologies. This law became effective on March 27, 2020. The Riverside Board of Education is committed to the health, safety, and welfare of our students and their staff, and their parents, our staff, and our community in general. But even in these times, the board needs to take certain actions to keep the district operational now and fully functional in the future. For these reasons, the board will forego an in-person meeting tonight to avoid a gathering of our community members. We'll conduct this meeting by video conference and will live stream this video conference meeting to the public in accordance with this new law. If a member of the public wishes to submit a question or comment for consideration as part of the public participation portion of this meeting, please be sure to follow the instructions in the meeting notice or on the district website for public comment. Later in the meeting, the Board of Education will suspend portions of certain bylaws which are not consistent with Amended Substitute House Bill 197. This will ensure compliance with the Amended Substitute House Bill 197. At a later date, the Board of Education will decide whether any of its future meetings will occur by telephone conference or video conference based on information available at that time. Thank you for your time, consideration, and patience during this difficult time. And thank you to our entire administrative, teaching, and non-teaching staff for all their hard work during this difficult time. Next up will be, I'm going to make a motion to suspend the requirement for in-person meetings. If I can have a second, please.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mrs. Grassi. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, Mr. Placco, if you can call the roll, please.
Tom Hack.
Aye.
Lori Krasinski,
Aye.
Jack Miley,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next up is I'm making a motion to approve the minutes for the February 18th, 2020 special meeting, the February 25th, 2020 board meeting, and the March 13th, 2020 emergency board meeting. If I could please have a second.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Hack. Is there any discussion? If there's no discussion, let's call the roll, please.
Lori Krasinski,
Aye.
Jack Miley,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Tom Hack.
Aye.
Motion carried. That takes us next to special reports.
We do not have any special reports tonight.
Okay. Next up then is old business. If anyone's got anything. How about new business? All right, that takes us to the Board of Education Committee and Liaison reports. The first one up is the Superintendent's Business Advisory Liaison. I've got no updates since the last meeting. Curriculum and programming boosters, Mr. Miley.
Okay, We had a curriculum meeting this morning at 7 o'clock. Technology worked well. We discussed special ed inclusion and class sizes a little bit and workload. We also had a discussion on distance learning and the use of Google Classroom, and that most third graders through 12th have Chromebooks. And right now we're doing paper packets for K-2. Next couple weeks, they're going to start introducing Zoom and other technologies so they could give out some more information to the kids. One thing I do want to emphasize is that we are moving ahead in education. This is not busy work that the teachers are assigning. This is actually moving ahead with our curriculum. We also discussed some grants that were going on in the district that we are looking forward to hopefully getting some money and support from. An innovative grant for welding classes, a furniture grant, a climate grant, and a grant that's going to deal with literacy, which would be like a second round. So we're looking forward to hearing positive results on those. We talked a little bit about the high school and that we would like to make sure we get the kids' schedules for next year out before the end of the year as a goal. And we're trying to be responsive to the teachers' needs. At this time, we know they're stepping out into some new areas with regards to trying to get the information to the kids, and we appreciate all their hard work. That's it for curriculum, unless, Tom, you have anything to add?
I don't have anything to add, but to anybody who might be listening, it's my understanding that the schools, that the Governor DeWine has definitively closed the schools until May 2nd. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that that's plainly stated. There may have been some other email communication to that point, but I just wanted to make sure people understand for, you know, as things stand right now, May 2nd will be the earliest we'd be back online.
Well, May 2nd is a Saturday. It would be May 1st. It would be the 4th would be that Monday.
Okay, terrific. Thank you. I just wanted to make it definitive. Thank you.
Okay. With regards to boosters, we've had no meetings since the school's been released, so nothing to add there.
I did say that they did cancel, obviously, the scheduled egg hunt for RPTA, and that they were hoping to reschedule something, if possible, later. Correct?
As
I
far
know
as
they're trying to do something in the summer.
I'm sorry, Nick, what's that?
They're going to try to do something in the summer.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Miley. Up next is Finance, Audit, and Personnel and Legislative, Mrs. Grassi.
Sure. So Finance and Audit and Personnel had a meeting on March 3rd at 7 a.m. We got through probably half of our agenda. We discussed administrative contracts and the administration that's going to be coming up for renewal in this next coming year. We talked about employee transition in the finance department and some of the roles that we have. We talked about technology, which we have a shared service agreement on our agenda this evening to go over the details of that contract were not available when we had our meeting. However, that contract language was available for everybody to read in the board packet, and hopefully everybody did that. I have reviewed that and asked my questions of Gary and Jim and had those things answered to me today. So I have no issues with that. And then we talked about, in the finance portion of our meeting, about the movement of the transfer of some funds from our general fund to the athletic fund, and that is also on the board agenda for approval. And we had been in the practice of doing that previously, and then when we went to increase pay to participate, we had stopped that as a practice, and we'd like to go back to that. And so there are two transfers that would be on the agenda this evening. The finance committee had no issues with that. And then we had started to talk about a termination of benefits fund, which not a termination of employees, but it's about putting aside funds for retirement purposes when employees retire. And I have that correct, Gary, correct?
Yeah, pretty much for severance payments, vacation payouts that employees would be entitled to upon departure.
Right, and so we're trying to think ahead and set aside funds for that. We haven't finished that conversation, but Gary had provided us with a schedule of information on that, and so more to come on that. And then our meeting was, some of us had to leave, and so we had cut our agenda short, and we will continue that agenda next time that we get together, and we have not scheduled another meeting at this time. As far as legislative updates, I can't even begin to tell you all the legislative updates that have come across the desk in the last 2 weeks with all of the stuff that's going on. I've been reading all of the information that's going on. Anything that pertains to schools that needs to have an agenda item on a board agenda, we are taking care of. The administration is taking care of all the other things that are coming down the pike, either legislatively or by executive order from the governor that don't happen to be in legislation. And they are quite numerous. So I'm just going to leave it at that. If there are things that are of great importance, I'm sure that the administration is going to let us know, and that we will have things on the board agenda as they come up.
Very good. All right. Thank you very much. Next is policy and strategic plan. I'm sorry, buildings and grounds, operations, alumni. I apologize, Mr. Hack.
Not a problem. Thank you. We did have a buildings and grounds meeting on March 16th. Among the things that we discussed, we certainly are monitoring the status of the new schools, Riverview and Parkside. We're still in the warranty timeframe, and so we're making sure that everything is squared away. One thing that I'm happy to report is that initially at the beginning of the winter, we were getting a number of alarms, both in both new schools. That's kind of a shakedown period, if you will. And we have had technicians and people come out and take a look, and those alarms now are more manageable. So we are getting on top of that situation, and the systems are running much more efficiently and without alarm than they were initially. And this is expected in kind of a shakedown situation. One of the things that is important that we are looking at and investigating is that there's a fair amount of crumbling concrete at both of the new schools. There's been active engagement with Icon, who is the company that actually was the construction manager at risk. So we've been working with them. They've been working with the vendor who provided the concrete. I'm not sure if we have any new results from the 16th, but clearly there was a definitive issue, and so we're looking to get that squared away. Let me just pause for a moment and see if Mr. Weiner or if Dr. Kalis have any updates with regard to that aspect of the meeting we had.
Not at this time, we don't. The architectural company knows that there's an issue, and they said they would get back to us. So this week I'll give them another call and see if there's any developments.
Okay, and clearly, just we're operating in very unique times at this moment. So we need to understand that turnaround on information requests is probably going to be a little bit longer than it typically is.
Yeah, for anyone out there as well, Mr. Hack, is we have portions of the concrete that have been crumbling, like you said, but there are other portions that aren't crumbling. So there's got to be a difference between what type of quality concrete we had poured in some spots and not others. We treated the concrete the same way. The one that's compromised and the one that isn't compromised, they were salted the same. They were, plowed the same or shoveled the same. So we know that there's some type of inferior quality concrete that we have that makes up a lot more than the good quality concrete that we have. I don't know exactly what the percentage is, but over at Parkside, I would assume it'd be probably about at least 60-70% of what was poured.
Thank you for the clarification. And so we are definitely trying to make sure that the buildings are up to snuff when they formally are transitioned to us, that we have good operating buildings that are ready to go and built to last. So just one other thing I guess I would talk about and echo a bit that Mr. Miley mentioned when he was talking about the curriculum. We are very excited about the welding program that we are putting in place here at Riverside. It's actually a consortium with 4 other Lake County schools: Wickliffe, Painesville City, and Perry. Each school district is pursuing a different type of vocational education opportunity. Riverside is providing welding. This is for seniors only. We have EMT, I believe, at Wickliffe, construction at Painesville Cities, and I believe that Perry is offering HVAC type of a curriculum. So we're very excited about that. One of the grants that Mr. Miley mentioned is concerning that, and we should, fingers crossed, despite the craziness of the environment we're in, we're hoping to get feedback on that grant this week. So that's about all I have for buildings and grounds. Mr. Miley, did you have anything else you wanted to mention?
No, you covered it good. Thank you.
Terrific. Thank you. And then as far as the Alumni Association, the meeting was canceled based on the stay-at-home order, so I don't have any updates from them at this time, and I will monitor them. I suspect that there will probably not be a meeting in April either, and we'll monitor the communications, and we'll try to attend the next meeting they have once the stay-at-home order is revoked. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Next up is, I'm sorry, I lost it here for a second.
Policy and strategic
Policy and strategic plan from Mrs. Krasinski.
So we were able to meet on March 12th to discuss the current group of policies that have edits or content changes. We were only able to make it approximately through 50% of those. So we had originally scheduled a second meeting, but that was canceled due to the closure of the schools. So we will need to reschedule that to finish that review. And it's my understanding there's a second group of policies that do have content changes that we'll also need to review. So hopefully in the near future, we'll be able to take the time to do that and get those back here for the board to review.
What I would assume is maybe we can talk about scheduling that meeting with Mrs. Grassi, yourself, the administrative team, and Mr. McIntyre to go through the rest of those initial policies. So maybe either we can do it, I can call you tomorrow, or we can do it at the end of this meeting. I don't know how it's exactly going to work at the end of the meeting, but we can get Dan on there and see what we can do.
And we can do that online. We could do that through this platform.
Yeah, so long as I can get you both at the meeting at the same time, we'll work around your schedule and get Dan there as well.
Okay.
All right.
And at this time, there's no strategic plan update.
All right. Thank you very much. That takes us to Kayla's attendance report.
Earlier in the meeting, it was mentioned that House Bill 197 not only impacts the state, but it also directly impacts schools. It makes allowances for people whose license are not that are expiring in June. I believe it's being pushed back to September. Typically, a license will expire July 1st, and at that point, any active teacher needs to have 6 credits to re-up their license. That's being pushed back as well. In fact, my wife's going through that right now, getting her classes in, and so they're pushing it back a couple months. Also, it grants local governments the flexibility to meet remotely like we are today. It also waives the state testing in report cards for the academic year. It also lifts the cap on granting credit for distance learning. And it waives usual requirements to permit high school seniors who are on track before the crisis to graduate. And we're doing all that we can right now to reach out to students that are on the cusp to ensure that we're giving them any types of supports we can to get them to graduate. And it also freezes the Ed Choice Initiative that was so hotly debated back in February. So there's a lot of things that are impacting us. It also impacts our evaluations. instead of going into the great detail about evaluations, we were going to reserve that for matters of personnel in an executive session to discuss some of the strategies that we need to consider going forward for the remainder of this year. The state is basically saying that we don't have to finish our evaluations, but in essence, by doing so, it's just like as if the district or any district did not complete their requirements, which leads us to some rollover of contracts. We also have 6 teachers that applied for continuing contracts. There's a couple of options there that we need to discuss as well. I would like to see what we can do to go through that process and finish it, so these individuals that were hoping to receive their continuing contracts this year don't have to wait another year. There's also some discussion about whether or not we should continue to do our evaluations on administrators. And without going into too much detail, in talking to our team, I believe that we can do that. You know, administrators are readily available, and I think we can not only do the ones that are up for a renewal, but the ones that aren't as well. But again, we can talk about some of those things. Also, I think it was last week, we asked Michelle Gifford, our food service director, to send out a survey to see how many people might be interested in receiving meals. And I didn't really think that we would get a lot of input back, which we didn't. But I also figured that if this hiatus was going to go on for more than a couple of weeks, that we needed to revisit that. And we decided to provide meals to students. And we just started doing it yesterday. And I have some information for the board to consider. We began distributing the meals between 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock yesterday at Riverview. That's our point of distribution to district families that are in need of lunches and breakfasts. And we're going to be there every Monday and Wednesday. That means we're not only feeding them on Monday and Wednesday, but we're giving them enough food for that week. But those are the days that we're distributing to the families. I currently have 3 nutrition service staff preparing the meals. It's not hot meals or cold meals. They don't have to do cooking, but they have to put together lunch and breakfast. We also had 7 volunteers. We made sure that they weren't all on top of each other there. We're providing drive-up service as well, so parents and kids don't have to get out of the car to get the meals. Someone meets the family at the car. They take the student's name and they tell a runner how many meals to get for the student. Like I said, yesterday we planned for about 50 students, and we actually served 73, and that was just on the first day. So we, if each student gets 3 breakfast and 3 lunch meals on Monday and 2 on Wednesday, this past Monday, if you look at it as 73 kids and we had 6 meals that were given to them, we provided 438 meals just yesterday, which is quite a bit. We believe that if, these families spread the word as well, and Nick has put it also on our Facebook page, I believe, haven't you, Nick?
Yeah, it's also been emailed a couple times to all the families as well.
We think obviously the numbers are going to increase. We had a couple families that were unable to pick up, so Nick Orlando, our middle school principal, was kind enough to make deliveries to the students, which was nice. And we also wanted to thank Tracy Chantry, Pete Liatzos, and Julie Bialco for helping out as well. There's a couple of things that they had to waive in terms of the law. When students are on free or reduced lunches, we have to deliver the meals at a particular point and hand it directly to the student, and they have to eat it at that site. Those have been waived. They waived the congregate rule, which means that they eat where the meal is served, and the feeding clause, and the rule that states that a student must take the meal. This makes it easier for parents or child care providers to get the meals and take them home. And we're still, have to follow all the meal guidelines as availability allows. Technically, we would not be able to do this unless some of these laws were waived. because we do not qualify as a district to provide lunches through the summer months. So that's where we are in terms of the meals. After I'm finished, Melissa's going to give an update on what we're doing in terms of instruction. But I want to also point out to the board and any other people that might be out there that have questions about tech support. This whole issue that we're having with online learning is quite a challenge, and our administrative team has done a great job getting it up and running, but it isn't without some obstacles and glitches, and we're feeling our way through. We keep on reminding the teachers that nothing's going to be perfect and that they have to, just prepare that something might go wrong and get through it. The more we get into this type of delivery of instruction, the easier it's going to be. But anyway, in terms of the tech support, if a student experiences any types of issues with their Chromebook, they will need to email our tech support team, and they need to provide their name, phone number, and student email address, a description of the issue and how long the issue has been happening. If it cannot be repaired via a conversation or an email, then they would have to drop off their Chromebook. They would have to do it remotely with an IT technician via email, or if their Chromebook may need to be dropped off for repair, we will have an IT technician available scheduled to accommodate drop-off and pickups Monday through Friday from 3 to 5. The drop-off and pickup location for all repairs will be at the Riverside High School outside the Media Center door there. Chromebook repair forms would also need to be filled out and dropped off with the Chromebook. If the student doesn't have access to a printer, the forms are also available on site. The district will also have an IT technician working on repairs Monday through Friday. Students will be notified via email when those Chromebooks are fixed and ready for pickup. We've also been working on alternative dates for prom and graduation. We have right now 3 dates for prom, and 2 dates for prom and 3 dates for graduation. I was notified today that the May 2nd prom is going by the wayside, since we're not sure whether or not we're coming back and schools are closed till May 1st. Prom was scheduled for May 2nd. So our alternative date for the prom is June 12th. I don't know if this thing's going to go through June 12th, but after that, we do not have a date, and we're still working on one. For commencement, though, we do have some alternatives. Right now, we have graduation slated as May 31st. We still have it. We don't know, again, if we're going to be able to do it. If we can't do it, it's going to be Sunday, June 14th. If we can't do it on June 14th, the alternative to the alternative date is going to be Sunday, August 2nd.
Same location for all of these things, graduation and prom?
Yeah, it's the same locations as it is right now. I don't know if anything's going to change in terms of prom, because like I said, still don't have a third date for prom. We're doing all that we can to make sure that we have these things for our kids. Like we were talking with administrators in the office here and online. It's the last third or semester of your senior year is always a fun time. It's very exciting, and unfortunately for the seniors, it's not so fun right now. They're not able to play sports, not able to participate in any of their clubs. They're not able to be together with their friends. And rite of passage is prom and graduation, and we're going to do all that we can to make it happen. It's just that everything's kind of up in the air. I'm going to turn it over to Melissa now. She's going to give some updates on our delivery of instruction to our students. Melissa, can you hear me?
Okay,
You're
I
muted.
had to unmute myself.
Yeah, you're breaking up though a little bit.
You guys hear me?
No.
Okay, this is the best I got, so no. We'll
No.
do the best we can here. I don't know what else to do.
Why don't you turn off the
Got my
video and use
internet here.
just the voice?
So
It might
I
help with the
won't do
bandwidth, right?
it from here again. I'll go to my office for next time
There
we
you
have a
go.
board meeting.
Nope, that's better with the video off.
All right. Is that any better?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay. All right. I'm gonna leave the video off then. Real quick before I start, Nick or Jim, with regards to the Chromebook pickup, you guys might want to we might want to make sure there's a sign outside the media center door, because elementary parents aren't going to know where
Yeah,
that's at.
I talked with Erica today. She said she was going to put a poster size sign around there and tape it to the inside of the door. We also, on the website, put a little bit more information about, kind of behind the transportation garage and right in between the high school and John R. Williams.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we were letting people who had never been to Riverside before know where to pick those up. Okay. I'll give you guys a quick update. So before we left, I can't even remember what day that was. We had our last meeting, the emergency meeting. And at that time, we still thought that we were potentially only going to be out till April 3rd. So teachers had planned for online lessons through Google Classroom. And we had planned an extra week, so we were actually planned up until Easter. Now knowing that we're going to be out until the beginning of May at the earliest, we are going to start after Easter rolling out some live sessions. This information is going out, details are going out to teachers, so if there are teachers listening that don't have the information yet, don't freak out. Chris Buffard, I can see your face. I hope they text you and not me tonight when they say, I heard this at the board meeting, okay? So it's coming, I swear. There's written information, and there will be a video update from me tomorrow morning as soon as I can get it uploaded. But the information will go out to teachers. But I just wanted to let you all know, first, we talked a little bit this morning, and I think Jack mentioned it in his update. We did not do any kind of plug-in busy work assignments for students. So although we took a little bit of time to start the online learning, and we're taking another little bit more time to get those live sessions going, all of our assignments for students have been to move them forward in their education. We don't have blizzard bags. We don't have drop-in assignments that we can use on calamity days, just because that's not practice with us. So we actually, from moment one, when kids started yesterday, they started moving forward in their education. So although sometimes you may hear that other districts started a week ago, or they started, right away, some of those districts that started right away or started a week ahead of us, A, didn't have their spring break in the middle of all this, and B, used their blizzard bag assignments at the front end of this. So although it might have been review and kids were doing something, it wasn't necessarily moving their education forward from where they were right now. I'm not knocking what anybody else did. It just was a different approach, which doesn't make theirs right and ours wrong, or ours right and theirs wrong. It just is a different approach. So I want to make sure that I get that out there, because I think that's an important fact to remember in what we're doing. Teachers will be collaborating starting next week. They will be doing online meetings like they normally would as a grade level or a subject area to prep for the week after Easter. They had some time to do that. That Monday we were there, March 16th. And administrators will be in on those meetings. I also have a team together, a wonderful, wonderful team with the coaches, the instructional coaches, and a couple of teachers that have been working tirelessly to get online training sessions ready for teachers on multiple platforms, Zoom, Google Meet, Google Hangout, to train the teachers so that they will be ready to go. They also are getting things ready, and they're going to offer them all times of day, morning, afternoon, evening.
and also some support for teachers on how to teach in online environments and what you can do with your students and how to make that a little bit more engaging. So there's a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes, although it seems like it should be something that we should just be up and running with. There's a lot of anxiety, so we're trying to squash that a little bit too, to make sure that teachers are prepared and ready to go. They're going to do great. I know they're nervous. Trying to find that delicate balance between continuing an education for students and continuing to provide that education as our job and our responsibility, but also being responsive to the fact that teachers' lives have changed and what they're doing at home isn't exactly the same anymore either. So trying to find, I've worked really closely with Tana and Chris to kind of set up these guidelines for teachers. I have to, again, I see Chris is on tonight. I have to commend both of them. They have done meeting after meeting with me, starting in the morning and then again in the afternoon, and a third time if we need to for several days now, working out the details, going back, talking to teachers, coming back with some changes for me. I haven't always been the most pleasant to work with, as they have kind of come back and pushed me a little bit, and then I push back a little bit and we find a way to meet in the middle. So it's been truly a collaborative effort to get this up and running. I could not have done it without their help. So but it's going to happen. We're doing really well, and I'm really, really proud of our teachers and all of our staff and how hard they're working and the things they're doing to stay connected to kids. So that's where we're at.
Thank you,
Tomorrow,
Melissa.
yep, I will just say tomorrow you should see, because the video update goes out to staff. That'll go out in the morning, where I'm kind of explaining a little bit more in detail specifically to staff. So those of you that are on the Riverside email distribution list, you will see that. If you are interested in how specific we're going to get, that'll go out tomorrow.
Are there any questions? I want to end my report by, the board obviously knows that we had a unexpected loss in the untimely passing of Jim Haffa, our longtime director of transportation and also our director of operations. I worked with Jim. He was here a couple stints. He was in our district, and then he went over to city, only to come back here when we were re-upping our transportation. And it was during a time that we really needed help. And even though he was working for the city, he was kind enough to help us get on our feet at Riverside. And then obviously when we had the position open, we did everything we could to bring him over here, just because he's such a very intelligent guy when it comes to transportation. And he knew how to run a program very well. And it's an enormous loss, at least what I can say in terms of professionally. Hate to lose him as a colleague, but I even hate to lose him even more as a friend of ours here in central office. He was always a very kind guy. He was a Riverside guy through and through. He went to school and graduated here, and his son also attended school here. And you could always see him at extracurriculars and other events. He also had an affinity for athletics as well, as he was, from what I understand, a pretty good, darn good athlete here at Riverside when he attended as a student. But, you know, I don't even know what to say. I mean, it's such a loss for us right now. We're up in the air in terms of those positions, and that's not the most important part about it. Is the most important part of it to us right now is his family. His wife, Julia, his two sons, Mason and AJ. And we want them to know that our condolences go out to them. We're very sorry that this happened. And if there's anything that the school can do to help in any capacity that we can, we're here for them.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is there anything else for your report, Dr. Kalis?
No, that concludes my report.
Okay. Mr. Placo, it goes to you for the treasurer's report, please.
Okay, I have a few short updates tonight. First thing I want to talk about is Lake County School Financing District levy renewal that's on the ballot for the presidential primary. The in-person voting was supposed to be March 17th, and as we all know, that was canceled. And due to now the passage of Amended Substitute House Bill 197, there will not be any more in-person voting for the election. So the remainder of the election, basically they extended the absentee voting time until April 28th. And the only in-person voting is for limited exceptions for certain people with certain disabilities and a few other small exceptions. So most people, if they hadn't already voted early or voted absentee, if they want to vote in the presidential primary, they need to request an absentee ballot through the Board of Elections, either Lake County or Geauga County, depending on what part of the district you live in. You must submit an application for an absentee ballot. They will not be automatically sending them out. The main reason is the biggest challenge with that is because this is a partisan type of election. You have to declare whether you're voting Republican, Libertarian, Democrat, or issues only. So they can't just send out a ballot because it depends on what party you decide to vote in. So you need to fill, if you want to vote absentee, you need to fill out the application, send it to the Board of Elections, then they will print your absentee ballot and mail it to you to be completed. You must submit an application by April 5th. I would highly recommend to submit it much earlier than that because I'm sure they're going to have many requests, and that's going to be quite an undertaking to send out all those absentee ballots. If you're unable to print an absentee ballot application, you can always call the Board of Elections. They will mail you the application to your house for you to fill out. Once you receive your actual absentee ballot, you want to make sure that you mail it and it's postmarked by April 27th. If you forget to mail it, I know the Lake County Board of Elections at least will have a drop-off box available on Election Day, and that you can drop it off at the office in downtown Painesville by 7 p.m. on April 28th. There is no new voter registration, so whoever was registered to vote by February, I think 18th was the deadline for this election. Those are the ones that are eligible to vote in this election. If you're not registered to vote, you can go ahead and register so you can vote in a later election, but you can't vote in the presidential primary. And the Board of Elections, I believe, have to receive all the ballots by May 8th. I believe they're going to count what they have, and we'll have that on the new election day of April 28th, but then those numbers could change. So if it is a close election, it might change. The results might change after that date through May 8th. A lot of people are concerned about the short timeline, so just make sure if you want to vote, you could get your application in early and make sure you don't miss out on your right to vote. Any questions on that from anybody? Okay, a few other updates. We originally had the Leroy Elementary School auction scheduled for April 3rd, but based on the current state of emergency and the stay-at-home orders, we have canceled that auction and we will reschedule at a later date. For the Hale Road, we're already under contract with the ESC of the Western Reserve. We are still working on closing. We're not going to meet the deadline by March 31st, but that's okay. Both parties are okay with that. Just get some of the deep paperwork done, things like that. That's progressing along as it needs to be. Recently, the Lake County Auditor put out a press release that was in the newspaper. They're returning $811,000 to local governments from their REA fund. They've been building up a balance at the county. Basically, when we get property tax settlements, they withhold a percentage of it for their operations. They have excess funds, and they returned some of those funds back to local governments. So Riverside received $61,394.45 from that. And then on tonight's agenda, there's an electric audit agreement. There's a contract for the Ohio Schools Council to do an audit of our electricity bills that are through First Energy. There's no cost to the audit, and if they find any errors and if we receive any type of refund or credit, That's split with them, and the rest is returned to the district. Our district, we're partially the City of Painesville Electric, but also First Energy, so this will just apply to the First Energy locations. And then lastly on the agenda tonight, we have the shared services agreement with for IT services with Kirtland Schools. It's a 3-year agreement with a 90-day termination clause. Under this agreement, there'll be 2 full-time techs and an assistant director that be signed to our district. So we'll always have 3 people on board, along with our director shared amongst the 2 districts. Mr. John Renwick, their IT director, would be our shared director. He's toured the district, looked at our servers and our equipment. He's a former employee of Lake Geauga Computer Association for many years, and he's ran the IT services for the ESC for, I think, Fairport Harbor and a few other districts. They went to Kirtland full time after that. He would be our shared director. And so it's a little more service than we were paying under our current provider. And then checks and references with Brian Ruffner at LGCA. He had really good things to say about him. We're real comfortable with John, and he's already, even though there's no agreement in place right now, it'll go in effect July 1st. He's already been helping me as far as doing things such as the E-rate filing for this year, and just kind of helping out on little things like that. So I think it'd be good for our district to have someone with that school experience and support for us. And I believe that concludes my report.
Thank you. Keep the light on. Sorry.
I've concluded my report, so we can go on to the public comments section.
All right. That takes us to public participation. Anyone wishing to address the Board of Education will be recognized by the board president. Speakers are requested to identify themselves and their topic. Comments are limited to 3 minutes. Nick, are you able to tell us if there's anyone that's trying to get in to do that?
Yeah, they can raise their hand or use the chat function to get our attention if that works.
Or they can unmute themselves.
Okay, I would say it doesn't look like we have anybody for that, so we will move on to the consent agenda. Consent agenda provides for more efficient use of time. Any board member can remove a consent agenda item to be discussed and voted on individually. First thing up is finance and audit.
Sure, we have a motion to approve the items listed on the finance and audit consent agenda as recommended by the treasurer, items A through G on our agenda. I have a second.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mrs. Harden. Does anyone have any discussion on any of the items A through G? If no, Mr. Platko, can you call the roll?
All right, Jack Miley,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi,
Aye.
Tom Hack,
Aye.
Lori Korniski.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next up is personnel.
And we have a motion to approve the items listed on the personnel consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent, items A and B. Can I have a second?
I'll second that.
Thank you, Mr. Miley. Is there any discussion on these items? If not, can we call the roll?
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Belinda Grassi,
Aye.
Tom Hack,
Aye.
Lori Korniski,
Aye.
Jack Miley.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next up is curriculum and programming.
Motion to approve the items listed on curriculum and programming consent agenda as recommended by the superintendent. I believe it's just item A, cancellation of the field trips and activities. Any discussion?
I'll second that.
I'll second.
Thank you. Forgot that part. Any discussion?
Do we know how, I know that we got an email from Lamouth as far as money being refunded for 6th grade camp if we had paid already. What is the process, do we know, on as far as refunds for our families?
Yeah, we're going to work with Lamouth to get to make sure that we get the right people to refund to. We will be refunding for the Chicago trip and for the camp trip. We need to make sure that we have the right people and addresses, because obviously parents are paying for fees. We want to make sure that we refund the right person, and so we just need to work together to get that out. We're kind of been operating under limited staff at the point in the office right now, but we need to get those together. So we'll be working on that fairly soon to get those refunds out, and refunds would be paid by check.
So I know at Lamouth we got an email. Did the everyone else, as far as the 7th grade trip and the 9th grade trip and the high school trip, but we've been communicating with the families that we're working on that?
Yeah, I've been talking to Mr. Schwartz, and I sent a letter to the company, and they're trying. They're under the circumstances, they're not having much problem getting money back from vendors. This trip company, and we just don't know how much it is yet. And we've been letting people know that once we know what that is, we'll get the money back to them. It's a little bit different than the middle school, because we were the ones organizing the trips for the middle school. Like the Chicago trip, after with the fiasco we had with Discovery Tours, we organized it ourselves. So we were collecting the money and we were holding the money ourselves. A lot easier to get the money back to the parents at the middle school level. This one is, we're going through a company, and it depends on how much money they're going to be able to get back from the vendors that they have contracted with. So we're still working on it with the Cincinnati and Toronto trips.
Well, I think everyone will be understanding that. I just want to make sure that we were communicating to the people who did pay that it's in process, at least, so they know that something's happening.
Yes.
You know,
we're trying to expedite it as much as we can, because we know that there's a financial strain on people during this time too. And they want their money, obviously, but we're doing what we can.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
Jack, if there's something else.
other discussion? All right, roll please, Mr. Panko.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Tom Mack,
Aye.
Lori Korniski,
Aye.
Jack Miley,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden.
Aye. Motion carried. Buildings and grounds?
Motion to approve the items listed on the Buildings and Grounds consent agenda, items A through D, as recommended by the superintendent. May I have a second, please?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, hearing none, Mr. Placco, can you call the roll, please?
Tom Heck,
Aye.
Lori Korniski,
Aye.
Jack Miley,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Linda Grassi.
Aye.
Motion carried. That takes us next to the Board of Education update. If anybody's got anything they would like to discuss. No? All right, then it is, I'll make a motion at 7:54 p.m. to adjourn to executive session for personnel matters, appointment and/or employment, promotion or demotion, and compensation. If I can have a second, please.
Second.
I'll second.
Thank you. And call the roll, please.
Lori Korniski,
Aye.
Jack Miley,
Aye.
Jennifer Harden,
Aye.
Linda Grassi,
Aye.
Tom Heck.
Aye.
Motion carried. All right, and with that, we will adjourn to executive session. Please, for the board members, remember we're going to move into an additional meeting for that.